What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Well, he did it again. President Joe Biden. Now we see why he doesn't do many press conferences. He committed a few gaffes yesterday in a press conference that he did with the media present, of course, television cameras. I believe during this press conference he was talking about, I think, Ukrainian President, uh, is it Vladimir Zelensky? I think it's Vladimir Zelensky was present. And he referred to the NATO alliance, I think, between Ukraine and the United States. And he introduced President Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, as President Putin. And then, when told of his gaffe, then tried to act like he was focused on defeating Putin. So that's why he said that. Then, when asked by a reporter whether or not Vice President Kamala Harris can defeat Trump, he referred to Kamala Harris as Vice President Trump. Look, if these were just one-off things, because we all misspeak from time to time. We do. I misspeak during videos. And you guys will catch me and say, hey, Too Raw, you said this, but you probably meant that. We all do it. We all make mistakes. But this isn't just a one-off thing. This is a consistent and disturbing pattern, which is becoming an alarming pattern, which is becoming more and more frequent with this president. And it's not just him making small mistakes in speech. This is a guy that during a debate, which is largely pre-planned. I mean, these guys plan these debates. You know, they go through rehearsals and they pretty much know the gist of these questions, how they're going to be asked and what the subject matter is. And for him to go up there and say, we defeated Medicare, at some point, with all of these gaps and all of the other clues that we've seen, the freezing, the reports of a neurologist and all this other stuff. By the way, I see Democrats and Biden supporters trying to, excuse it by saying, well, look, a neurologist visited Obama 12 times during his presidency. Okay. But that's 12 times over an 8-year period. 12 times over an 8-year period. Okay, there's one thing for a normal procedure to see everything's okay. That's a little bit over one visit a year, maybe 1.4 off the top of my head, something like that. Joe Biden has seen a neurologist 8 times over less than a calendar year. 8 times over a less than calendar year period. That's indicative that something's going on that people are concerned about. And we can see it. It's become alarmingly clear. I've done multiple videos talking about this over the past 3 years. Hell, when he first started running back in 2019, I was saying, this doesn't seem like the same Joe Biden I remember as vice president. And that Joe Biden was miles ahead of this Joe Biden, who wants you to give him 4 more years in the presidency. I don't think that's a gamble we should be willing to take. And I understand people are saying, well, why should we, as far as the Democratic Party, why should we go through these measures to get another candidate when we have to do so much? We have to try to push this candidate for broad support, try to get delegates on board to support, to gather around or rally around one candidate within a 5-week period, get all these resources and all of these other, off the ground swell of support for one candidate, while Trump will have these advantages. They don't want. That's what they're looking at. But what they're not understanding is, every day, this president, the oldest president in history, is doing things to reinforce the perception, reinforcing it, that he's not fit for the office. And what's starting to happen now, in my opinion, is the galvanization of the perception that this is a man that is suffering from at least some form of cognitive decline, if not dementia. Not to mention the fact that there already is going to be a weapon attached to that. What Trump is going to do is not only attack Joe Biden, but he's also going to say, if you vote for Joe Biden, that's essentially a vote for Kamala, because most Americans don't believe Joe Biden at this point is going to be able to survive another term. When I say survive, I mean without having to resign. A lot of people don't like Kamala. I mean, have you seen her negatives? She has, what, a 28% approval rating? Do you think, honestly, a candidate like her with 28% approval rating could win? That's also the main reason why there's hesitation for Joe Biden to step down, because they don't believe in Kamala. If anything, she would lose probably even worse than a demented Biden to Trump. So the Democrats are in a screwed up situation, but it's their own doing. I feel no sympathy for them whatsoever, because they did this to themselves. Instead of listening to the electorate back in 2020, instead of listening to the electorate, they chose to rig the process back in 2020. You remember me and LB and others complaining about that. Shout out to the sports and political channel of LB. Town Biz, I think, talked about that. 78 talked about that a little bit. They purposely got the middle of the road candidates out of the primary, that being Pete Buttigieg at the time, and what's her name? I think it's Amy Klobuchar. I forgot her name right now, but the senator of Minnesota. They got them out the race so that Biden could consolidate the middle of the road vote, the center vote, the moderate Democratic vote, but the more progressive candidate, Elizabeth Warren, stayed in so that she could divide the vote with Sanders. So they rigged the process so Biden could sweep the primaries, force a candidate on us that was actually dead in the water. Remember, Biden was dead in the water before they did that. Then they forced Kamala on us because there was this push for them to have, the Democrats to have a token running mate who was not really qualified for the job. It won in 2020 because of mass voter dissatisfaction with the Trump administration at that time and anger because of the economic situation and the COVID crisis. But, fast forward 4 years later, where we are now, and it's looking pretty murky for them. I don't feel sorry for them, like I said. By the way, I'm also seeing reports that Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama are privately dissatisfied with Joe Biden and want him to step down. It was supposedly Barack Obama who pushed George Clooney to come out and pressure Joe Biden to sit down, to step aside. George Clooney is a major Democratic fundraiser. So he has a say, no matter how people want to call him just some actor. And speaking of fundraising, Democratic donors, the people that actually donate the money to finance the campaigns or the campaign of Joe Biden, the Democratic campaign, the money's drying up because voters/donors don't believe in this guy anymore. And if the money dries up, he's done. Because if you can't get people to donate to your candidacy, you can't run. And it takes a lot of money to run for president. I think it takes, in today's day and age, something around, over the course of a campaign, something around $250 million at least. It takes a lot of money. So to me, man, the Democrats have a little over a month to get their act together. The RNC is next week. I think it starts Monday. I don't know who Trump's going to run with. It's still undetermined at this particular time. There's some reports saying it might be Marco Rubio. I don't know why. I don't know what he really asked the ticket, because Trump carried Florida by 370,000 votes back in 2020, and that was against a stronger Joe Biden. And also, because of the Constitution, one of them is going to have to move out of the state of Florida. Probably going to have to be Trump, because Trump's not in office. Trump's going to have to change his, because you can't have two people running on the same ticket from the same state. That happened back in 2000 when Dick Cheney was a resident of Texas, but he had to change his residency back to his home state of his born state and old home state of Wyoming, where he was a congressman back in the 70s, because he couldn't be a resident of Texas because George W. Bush was a resident of Texas. So more than likely, Trump's going to change his residency back to New York, which actually probably will help him. Because I don't know, he can't win New York, but I think Trump could pick off some more New England states if he tried hard enough. Right now, New Hampshire's in danger of slipping to the Republicans, and I think Maine is winnable. Remember, Trump won an electoral vote out of Maine back in 2020 because Maine, like Nebraska, has a different set of rules when it comes to electoral college. Every other state is winner take all, meaning that whoever wins the popular vote in those other 48 states in D.C., they get all electoral votes, save for some faithless electors who choose to just buck the pledge and just vote for another candidate, but that's usually against the rules, and sometimes there's some penalties involved. But with Maine and Nebraska, those two states, they afford the electoral votes apportioned to congressional district. So if a candidate happens to win the popular vote in a certain congressional district, they get those electoral votes. And I think Nebraska's third electoral district sometimes votes Democratic, because Biden got electoral vote out there back in 2020, but I doubt it's going to happen this time. The way things are going, not only will Trump win an electoral college vote out of Maine, but he may win the whole damn state. That hasn't happened. A Republican presidential candidate has not won the state of Maine outright since George H.W. Bush back in 1988. I believe he narrowly carried the state of Maine over Michael Dukakis. Ever since then, it's been blue. But it's been trending a little red ever since 2016, a little bit. But anyway, just want to do this video right quick. Tell me what you guys think.